Hello everybody and welcome to the West Ham Way YouTube channel. You already know who I am. There's a couple of familiar faces. There's a newbie and Angus is joining us this week to discuss everything West Ham. And before we even get on to everything that we plan to discuss, there's been a nice little article come out this morning that I'm just going to bring up on the screen for us to discuss. Now, this. Just as it seems like everything sort of settles down with West Ham, some account tends to throw something out there. So, £25 million borrowed from Barclays Bank is used to plug finances, including transfer fees. The 80 million transfer fee dedicated to those players. Where do we start? I'll let this one open to everyone, but I'm not sure where the 80 million comes from. It's sort of a figure plucked out of thin air that just seems conveniently good to suggest that West Ham fans have had that money spent on the team.
It's nowhere near that. I mean, Bowen was 20, anywhere between 20 and 22, depending on who you want to believe. Soucek was a 4 million loan and 14 million and a half, so you got 40 there. Randolph, they owed us money. I think the reports were we only spent 1 or 2 million because they still owed us a final instalment of 2 million. Kufal was 5 million in weird instalments, and Ben Rommel was a loan with 25 million after. So at most, you're looking at 65 million there. The other 15 million pound is agent fees, clearly.
And what happened to the Grady money as well? You know, that's meant to be, some sort of large fee that suddenly is forgotten about. So,
like the Payet money back in the day.
Exactly.
Well, the Payet money, when that come out, I think we were promised that it would be spent on someone else other than Robert Snodgrass. But in fact, Robert Snodgrass was the replacement for Payet, which is crazy. I mean, you're right, Angus, mate. Like the Dean Garner money, it hasn't actually been reinvested properly. And even if they've tied that money up in a Ben Rama deal, that still hasn't been spent. I just question the timing. The timing's very odd with this type of thing. And I was saying beforehand, is it sort of Sullivan's way of getting something out there before we get to December, before we get to the transfer window, just to sort of quell any expectations and say, listen, no one's going to come in?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's GSB doing GSB things at the end of the day. You look at it and sure, you might get a shock reading the article on the day, but is it any surprise? It's the way they operate business, and with Sullivan in particular, it's nothing new. So yeah.
And then what will happen? There'll be articles out there. I mean, it was in the past where we were going to loan £25 million to Bassini, who beamed up Watford Football Club, to buy Bolton, and it's like, why are we planning to give him 25 million when we're having to borrow 25 million a year later just to cover our own transfers? Imagine if we had done that. Would we need to borrow 50 million? It's just complete insanity. I've said it before, like they're clearly not bad businessmen, because you can't be that bad businessman and accrue the wealth that they have. But they're so out of touch, or it's just all bullshit. It's just everything was a lie beforehand, and this is another lie to cover those lies. And no one really, again, was what we said. We believed you about this financial crisis and this problem, but now you want us to believe this, which is completely different to what you told us before. So which is the truth? Because there's about 3 or 4 versions out there that have been put out there by accounts like West Ham Football and by TalkSport and Sullivan himself on the media. So What is it? Jim White said that the owners put 30 million of their own money into the club. Okay, so why are we now borrowing 25 million pounds?
Yeah, and that's the thing. Yeah. I think I saw a TalkSport article saying that, and I don't know who wrote this. It was probably Jim White. That said that selling Dean Garner was a masterstroke because Lanzini came on and scored that. Ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And that's what frustrates us more, the fact that they feel that they can almost insult our intelligence, and they're not intelligent enough to cover up the facts that they've already put out there. Like, it just gets worse and worse, and I just hope for the day where we can just concentrate on the football with constantly not having to deal with something that just comes up, because it just seems incessant. And listen, if we can keep up this form by Christmas, and all of a sudden we're top 10 and we can push, we're going to need a few loan signings. I think particularly for this game coming up, even if we had someone like a Josh King, a bit of squad depth would have been fantastic. So we are going to be looking at that in January. And if the board can't back Moyes, which they're clearly saying now, where are we going to be? You're essentially throwing them under the bus again.
Under the bus.
Yeah, I mean, also with that, with that article, firstly, like Dennis was pointing out, is that, they've gone on public record on TalkSport and said that Jim White has exclaimed for Sullivan that he's put 30 million of his own money in like the week before or something like that, which makes these articles even more hilarious. The fact that they're borrowing just about that much money from Barclays to obviously cut that cost. So it's obviously it's all to do with optics. It's all to do with the aesthetic of it all. But also, like, I mean, Randolph, we've established he's coming to West Ham. X brought out the news that saying that there was a chance that we were going to get him for a lot less because there was still money that Middlesbrough owed us. So I don't know how the hell he's on that list, which makes that sort of whole statement even more bizarre. But I think the biggest issue is obviously that the owners just don't have enough money to sustain a Premier League club. We've known this for ages now. And, to a degree, I do have sympathy that the COVID has hit all football clubs pretty badly, and that, loans are probably going to have to be made in this sort of climate. But just generally, you look at the amount of wealth that other clubs owners have. I mean, I think Burnley are now going to start seeing a lot more money invested their way with their recent acquisition.
200 million.
Yeah, no, well, that's the thing. I mean, they've been bought for that, but God knows how much money they might actually have at their disposal. So, it's just another nail in the coffin of GSB. But I mean, we've just got to wait now. We've got to get rid of these owners, get the club to new owners that have money, and move forward. But I mean, this tweet, first thing you wake up to in the morning, it's just another thing, isn't it?
Yeah, the timing's wrong, and I think you're right as well, Charles. With the Burnley takeover, that change, that you've got another player now in the Premier League that's going to push on and improve. I think Derby are going to get taken over in the Championship. You're increasingly seeing in English football clubs getting a lot more money pumped in that are going to be able to compete, and we're going to get left behind. We really, really are. And I would question this. And listen, I think we've discussed it. They have to be good businessmen in some aspect to get the wealth that they have. But at the same time, how good they can be managing a football club when there's clear holes in the finances. It just doesn't. Like you said, the COVID thing, of course, it impacts gate revenue. I don't think anyone's suggesting it isn't. But for West Ham to only be paying £2 million rent on a stadium, to not be sustainable going forward, to have cut the wage bill in half over the past 2 years, for me, it just doesn't add up. There's something missing.
And what's ridiculous is they're trying to justify their ownership by making them sound even more incompetent. It's like, how many other clubs have this level of leaks, like the Antonio injury? Now this, just keep this under wraps. Just don't tell people you're getting this loan out. Or like, oh yeah, we put 30 million of the money, but we took a 25 million loan as well. So what, you put 5 million of your own money, or we needed 55 million? It doesn't quite add up. No other football clubs are no doubt, as you said, having problems, but no other football club are advertising to the world, we're fucked. So, like they're not. No one is advertising to the world. Like, it's just embarrassing. Like I said, I've said so many times, you have people that genuinely hate our club saying, I feel sorry for you because of how just embarrassing it is that even if people that don't think the owners are that bad even acknowledge that they are just an absolute embarrassment. It's like, oh yeah, we like publishing emails that say, oh, we're trying to loan a player if you don't accept this terrible lowball offer, or going on TalkSport and spelling out Tarkowski. They're saying, oh, well, but I won't name him, but you've spelt out every single detail of that footballer, including his boot size, but then said, oh, no, I'm not going to name who it is, but, I could sign him, but, the manager doesn't want him. And it's like, right, okay, the manager doesn't want him, so why are you bidding for him, you dumb...
Yeah. Like... Touching on the money again as well, loan deals, installments, actually taking loans out for other things as well. Like, you look at this week, Burnley have been taken over for £200 million. How is that not our football club? And that is the answer, is that if you're outside this football club and you're looking in at the owners and the stuff they do, it is not an attractive football club to buy. On paper, it should be. It's in the middle of London. You know, we've got a great support base. We've got a big support base. Burnley for £200 million. And that is completely down to the board. And yeah, I mean, you look at stuff like this, half of me thinks it's going to be an absolute struggle to sell this club when they actually want to as well.
Yeah,
because
when they value it at
so many
800
things going
million
wrong.
as well.
Well, that's the thing,
yeah.
is that exactly. I mean, you two are getting at it. Is that, you know, Burnley are relatively, they're probably on the lower end of the scale in terms of monetary value amongst other Premier League clubs. But like you guys are hinting at, essentially, the longer David Gold and Sullivan are at the club, the less our value becomes. But their egos and their business minds are saying, "Oh no, we've got to be selling for higher than that." And it's just not going to happen. So you're basically just, going further apart.
Like you say about how we're like you were saying, Angus, we're a known club in London. Like, as much as I don't want to turn this into slapstick, internationally, Burnley are known for one thing. That's a clip in the In-Betweeners movie. Like, I'll be honest with you, people I know that are not from the UK are like, wait, Burnley are an actual thing? We thought that was a joke in the In-Betweeners film. Like, no, they're actually successful Premier League football club. Like,
and sort of get off that point as well. You know, Burnley, I think particularly since they've been in the Premier League with Dyche, they've built the club up. They've got the new training ground facilities. Financially, they're quite secure. I think in the summer you saw them not spend too much money, so there was that kind of clear indication that they were going to be taken over. From a financial aspect, that's attractive. But if you're a potential owner, you're going to have some serious money, not only to meet David Sullivan and David Gold's actual evaluation, but we're talking leaks in the finances. I think Tony in the comments has said that we still owe money for Anderson and Allaire. There are so many things that these new owners would have to come in and resolve, and that's without the stadium, by the way, because that's sort of up in the air. I don't believe that they want to sell before 2023 because they'd have to give some money to that company. It's just like, it's so frustrating. They're custodians of the club. If you can't take us on, or you can't even sustain it, just go and try and get anyone in that's gonna try and at least push us on, or at least kind of build the club back. Because I was on Anfield Agenda this week, and I was talking about they've got their new facilities and they look unbelievable. West Ham have still got porta cabins. Do you know what I mean? And
I saw a tweet saying whether we can have Melwood instead. I mean, Melwood's about 10 times better than the one we have right now.
To be honest with you,
listen.
Sorry, you go ahead, Corey.
No, that's all right, man. You go. It's your show.
I was just gonna make a facetious remark. Like, I'm in Margate this weekend visiting my mum. They've got better training facilities.
Oh God, without a doubt.
They train in Dane Park, like.
Well, I think someone was it Fleetwood in like League One have got better training facilities. I think I saw something. I could have been a trick.
Remember, like Holland got announced, and outside their training ground, I was like, bloody hell, it looks like a bloody beautiful mansion.
Let's have a look at some of these comments. Mark, a regular of Writer's Block, commented this morning, I think Sullivan leaks information to the press to keep him in the headlines. 100%. And that's why it's so frustrating, because it's like, it's got nothing to do with you, mate. But he always wants to be at the forefront. And I think, particularly with someone like Sullivan, who's so ego-driven, when West Ham are performing well, the first point we've got against Guardiola, the comeback against Spurs, oh, by the way, that was me. No, it wasn't me. You've got to give credit to David Moyes, because he's been working with a squad that has so little squad depth, and he's managed to get a tune out of them. And obviously Tony has mentioned that we still owe Anderson and Allaire transfer fees, which is hardly a surprise.
Well, I think Sorry,
you go, Charles. You go.
On the first point, cheers. On the first point that Mark put out, like, we'll probably talk about this later with the questions that we've got, but it's kind of a lose-lose situation with us at the moment, because we're either in a really bad situation with terrible owners, or we're in great form as we are now, and everyone else is going to be thinking, oh, but you've got bad owners apparently and everything. It's like, we still do very bad owners, but we just happen to be run very well at the moment by a manager who's got our players playing well. So it really is kind of a catch-22, and you've got to be thinking as a neutral fan, why has there been such an accumulation recently of press against the owners? And you've got to be thinking that there's got to be a correlation there, and that correlation doesn't happen. Sometimes it can happen on the football pitch. It can result in bad results, but I mean, we just have to get rid of them, no matter how well or how bad we're playing.
Yeah, it doesn't it's back the team, not the regime. It's the amount of fans saying, "Oh well, you won. Is it the owner's fault that you won?" And I'm like, well, no, the owners have bugger all influence on what happens on the pitch, just like the fans' protests don't. So,
yeah, going back to Mark's comment there as well, it's frustrating that you just don't know whether comments have come from inside the club, for instance, from David Sullivan and David Gold, or whether they're just made up. The credibility has dropped ridiculously with West Ham fans, and that's why we rely on people like X instead of club news. Because, you just don't know if they're trying to play mind games or if articles are just false altogether. And, the whole Claret and Hugh history is ridiculous. But, I just wish that we had owners that were actually properly invested in getting us wins and not earning a reputation.
Yeah, completely agree. Listen, lads, we could talk about them all day. We probably talk about them next time as well. But let's get on to the
football,
question.
please.
Back to the football.
back to the football, yeah.
Back to football, not the regime. Right, let's get into it. This is a huge talking point, by the way. This has been going on in social media. I've been quite quiet, but I have seen it over the past few days. Do West Ham have to adapt to Sebastian Haller against Liverpool? And listen, I was gutted when I found out Antonio was injured. I think the Athletic reported that he could be fit. I said that gives us West Ham a great opportunity to create chances against Liverpool. Haller, for me, completely changes the way that we attack Liverpool. Whilst I think they've got a vulnerable back line, there isn't the same athleticism, same mobility. We're going to have to work to his strength. So it is a question as to whether we work with Haller or does Haller have to work with us. So Angus, your first time answering a question, mate. What do you think?
Sure. Well, I think one thing's for certain. We will be playing 5 at the back today against Liverpool. I think that's an absolute guarantee. So the question is, are we playing 4 in midfield and 1 up top? Or are we playing 3 in midfield and 2 up top? And I was writing an article today, and it genuinely, I think, depends on... Well, it doesn't depend on who we start out of Pablo Fornals and side Benrahma. But definitely, I think if Benrahma starts, the way that he plays football almost does in a way suit Haller playing as not a lone striker, but Benrahma just pushes up to play with him and actually starts the game in midfield. But I don't think Benrahma will start, and I think the reality is the best way for us to handle this game is to have Fornals playing in midfield with Souček and Rice, and either Bowen or Yarmolenko, and I would go with Bowen personally playing up top with Sebastian Haller and feeding off him. And I think it'll come down to Arthur Masuaku as well. He'll have to have a really, really good game today, whipping balls into the box. And I think we will rely on him attacking a lot more with Sebastian Haller instead of Mikel Antonio, because we do have to play at the end of the day to Sebastian Haller's strengths. He's not the same player as Mikel Antonio. He doesn't have the pace. So we will rely on crosses into the box a lot more. And that's the problem when he was starting last year, playing 1 up top, or even when he was playing with someone else, it didn't seem, and it's almost the same with Andy Carroll, like we were getting those balls into the box. There were plenty of times when Andy Carroll was playing for West Ham where he would come on as an impact sub in the 50th minute, 60th minute, and we'd just go from playing balls into the box to actually playing along the ground. So definitely balls into the box, 1 up top, 2 up top remains to be seen, but Arthur Masuaku will be key, and yes, we definitely do need to play to his strengths.
It's a great point, mate. And in my preview, I said the same thing. I think Masuaku's role and Soufal's role today is going to be so crucial, because with someone like Haller, the delivery has to come into him. And we have seen in the Wolves game, particularly with Arthur, where he's literally putting a blinding cross. It's straight to Haller's head and he's scored from it. That has to be the game plan. The issue with Liverpool is that they're going to push Trent and Robertson quite far on. So you're going to have the wing-backs having to contend with them and get forward at the same time. And that is the concern, where I think West Ham will set up in a low block. I think we'll be very defensive. But it's going to be hard for them. They're going to have to really defend for long periods of time and then transition so quickly. It just completely changes our game plan. And I do rate Haller as a player. I think technically he's fantastic. But I was disappointed against Manchester City. I'm interested to know your thoughts, because I thought when he came on, even the things you back him on in terms of his first touch and his hold-up play, it just seemed to be a bit languid, and he wasn't really linking up with the team that well.
Yeah, I mean, Yeah. Going back to that Manchester City game, obviously when Antonio came off, we played Jared Bowen up top for a tiny bit, and we had Yarmolenko on the right, and then Sebastian Heller played a bit as well. Yeah, I don't know. He seemed off. He seems off most games that he starts in and is a substitute in, with the exception of the Wolves. Was it the Wolves game? The Wolves game.
That's the one.
He does have that quality. At the end of the day, we paid that much for him for a reason. He showed it in the Bundesliga, and yeah, I think today's game is massive for him. I think if I was managing West Ham, I would start side Ben Rama over Pablo Fornals. And the only reason for that is, it kind of gives Sebastian Heller an opportunity to see this as a fresh start. He's starting his first Premier League game of the season. His attacking threat has changed now. He's got this new player playing with him. And we've got the points secured at this stage of the season, that, the points that we wanted to have. So I just throw it all at him. But, I think Fornals will start, and we'll see how we go.
Yeah, definitely. And the Fornals thing, I sort of earmarked him as a bit of a game changer, because there is that competition, is it, between where you play Ben Rama, where obviously his technical quality going forward is going to be fantastic, and possibly a link up with Haller is going to be really sort of welcome. But I think Fornals' work rate in this game is going to be crucial down that right hand side. And I think from a defensive point of view, Moyes is just going to stick with him. Charles, thoughts on Sebastian Haller? I mean, I think we've spoken about this at length, but do you think West Ham have to change how we work into him, or would you actually like to see a little bit more from him, and him maybe sort of put pressure on that Liverpool backline?
A bit of both, really. I mean, there's no doubt that the system we've been playing in the last few weeks has been a great success in the last few games, where defensively we've shored up with that extra man in defence, playing 5 at the back, and then playing counter-attacking football, which I think suits us down to the ground, and especially with a guy like Haller with that pace and strength. That counter-attacking sort of mindset really opens up potentials for a lot of attacking potential for us. With Haller, I mean, I tell you what, my mind on Haller will be, I think, fully made up in the next 2 games. So for him, for me anyway, it will be so important for him to have 2 good games. I mean, Liverpool is a hard game to come into straight away, but the Fulham game will be really telling just how impactful he can be in this team. But yeah, I mean, Angus covered a lot of the strengths that Haller has. Probably his best strength is, his sort of technical ability, but also his hold-up play. Which really would be suited to having an extra striker or an extra man next to him, whether it be a striker or a number 10. But obviously we don't have that because, GSB and all that. But yeah, we've got to make do. And I'm hoping, I mean, like you say, like Angus said, I think Ben Rama is probably more suited to servicing Haller better than Fornals, I'd say, but there's not going to be a chance that Fornals gets dropped. He has played well. Defensively, he's great at getting back and helping out with the defence. He's good at chasing down. He's good at putting a lot of effort in, even if sometimes his composure isn't the greatest. I think actually like I said, I think with Haller, you've got to have a combination of both him helping us with the system that we found out recently, but also us being able to support him in his strengths, because when you play to his strengths, like you saw at Frankfurt, he's world class. He really is. And you put him in a chance to score. I mean, at the start of last season, against Watford, he was like a absolute poacher. Against Watford. I remember that game. I thought, God, he's going to be quality. But we just have to wait and see. Hopefully, the service will be there. Slightly worried about the physical presence of Bowen and Fornals slightly, but hopefully their technical ability and their hard work rate will get them through it. But one thing I will say is that for us to have any chance of coming away with something in this game, I know Liverpool had their defensive worries, and we should try to exploit those. Their attack is still top class, and we need to be as solid as we have been in the last sort of few games. I mean, that game against City was a real good indicator of how we can perform against a team like Liverpool. But yeah, we've got to cut out the mistakes. There were a lot of mistakes that were made in the second half of that City game that, you know, on another day City would have capitalised and we would have been beat 6-1. So we really need to make sure that we're on top form at the back, which we have been. But, you know, we need to keep it up, and I wouldn't mind, you know, escaping Anfield with the draw, especially heading into the Fulham game.
Oh, it'd be gorgeous, mate, wouldn't it? I mean, listen, I've done the preview, and listen, Liverpool are going to put some serious pressure down the middle. I think they've got Thiago as well, and he's going to just keep that ball. And this is the issue that I've got, and this is the job that Haller needs to do today. It's the hold-up play. He needs to keep the ball with him long enough just to take the pressure off our defence, because we did very well against City. There's no denying it. The low block was fantastic, but you can only do that for so long, and Liverpool will just create and create and create. And they've got players like Firmino that can move in and out of space and sort of draw our defence out. They've got Salah, Mane coming central. It's going to be really tough.
I think the good thing is, like you were saying, Corey, with that hold-up play, I think it's going to be... we haven't really seen Haller link up with Souček and Rice in midfield. I think we've only seen it with like maybe Noble in midfield or something like that. We haven't seen him properly link up with Souček and Rice in midfield, and those two are a lot quicker in centre midfield, and Souček especially is great at going up. So if those two can get up with him quickly, as you say, hold up the ball and get up there, support him quickly, they can take the ball off him. He can get back up there and get into a goal-scoring position.
Yeah, the only problem is a risk, and this is what I've said. Like with Haller, the whole system is a risk. The way we attack, if you push Rice and Souček, you're going to leave space in behind. Liverpool are going to play with 8s as well, so you'll have Hendo and Wijnaldum moving on. Firmino dropping into a 10 as well. It's going to be a nightmare. But we have to take the chances. We have to move forward. We have to be brave. Very much against Manchester City, when we did have a chance, we took it. It will be the same today. You'd be probably looking at Haller to keep the ball. And use a bit of pace in behind, and use Jared Bowen. I think Angus touched on it. Maybe play a 2 up front and have someone that can run off him, because Liverpool's defence can be got at. You know, when those fullbacks push on, they'll just sit with 2 centre backs and play a high line. So it is up really for the likes of Bowen to get in behind. We did it against Leicester when they got exposed. We've done it before. We're just going to have to be massively brave. And now I'm going to move on to a Sebastian Haller fanboy in Dennis, who can have his say. What should we do today, Dennis?
Well, it's been well documented. I'm a massive. I think the term is a mark for Sebastian Haller, but as it's more less about his ability, it's been summed up very well. And on previous shows, you do need to have a different playing style with him. He's a different animal to Antonio completely. The addition of Benrahma, like Angus said, could be a fresh start for him, because he. Rightfully so has had a bit of a chip on his shoulder, because he played brilliantly in the last game before lockdown against Southampton, or the next last game before. He wasn't horrifically bad against Arsenal. Yet he got dropped like a bad habit by Moyes going into lockdown. Didn't get a chance. Antonio had those 4 goals against Norwich, which boosted his goal scoring chance. Now, take nothing away from Antonio, he has been fantastic, but it made his contribution that much better, where I'm adamant Haller probably would have scored those chances as well. The problem is with the formation, because I think it would be harsh to drop Fornells for Benrahma, because I think Fornells has played very well. If it was perhaps any other opposition, I would agree going 2 up top with Bowen playing off Haller, Fornells as a number 10, maybe sitting a little bit deeper so he can come back and support Rice and Souček if any one of them want to get forward. The problem is, we touched on it with the other on the other game, Charles, is the amount of times he takes, whenever he picks up the ball, he's got his back to goal. Yep. Which against Liverpool, he's going to turn into a brick wall that is Thiago. So that's going to be a bit of a problem if we go with that formation. And also, if you go with that formation, you're horrendously narrow. Like you said, you touch on how strong Liverpool are in the middle. So you're going to have to push your fullbacks up, which is potentially a death trap going up against Trent and Robertson. So 2 up top with that, but equally is a risk. But it's a free hit against Liverpool. How many times have we been turned over by Liverpool? Let's just have a go and try it. I've said this time and time again. The need for a plan B and a plan C has been there for a long time, because with David Moyes, I do have that Simpsons meme where we tried nothing, we're all out of ideas. If plan A doesn't work, that's it. We saw that against Man City. When Antonio went off injured, it was crap. Let's bring on Captain Slow on the right wing and push our really quick right winger that tracks back into the middle. That'll work. 2 minutes later, Foden equalises. So I reckon that he will stick to his guns and he will just play. He will just a like for like swap for Haller in for Antonio. Exact same system, and him go, well, look, Antonio doesn't fit my system. He's a dud. My system works. I'm a good manager. As much as we've given Moyes praise right now, he is very one-dimensional and doesn't really adapt very well. So that's what I reckon is going to happen. Personally, I think we might as well go for it with 2 up top with 4 Nels in the middle. That's my opinion.
Yeah. That's the thing, what you were touching on there. At the end of the day, it is almost a free hit. It's a shame. Well, it's not a shame, obviously, that Van Dijk isn't playing. But I think if Van Dijk was playing, then you'd look at it, you'd think the probability of us winning this game is virtually zero. Just throw out all at it. We've got the points secured that we wanted to have secured by this stage of the season. We've far exceeded our points expectation, at least as fans anyway. And why not, instead of Jared Bowen, why not actually start Said Benrahma up top with Sebastian Haller and then have the only excuse that I'd have for dropping Fornals at the moment, and I don't really think I've seen anyone touch on it, is the miss against City. And obviously he scored that really, really good goal against Leicester and has delivered at Anfield last season. But Said Benrahma is not missing a chance like that. And I've watched Benrahma in the Championship. I watched him last year for Brentford, and he is. I can't speak highly enough of him as a football player. He is absolutely amazing. And have Fornals as the impact sub, or have Bowen as the impact sub. It's clear to see that David Moyes, I don't think, rates Sebastian Haller at the end of the day. So for me, if I was David Moyes, it makes no sense to just have a straight swap, take Antonio out and put Sebastian Haller in. I just look at it and go, you know what, I'll throw what I want at this game and see what happens. And I think if you bet on someone like Said Benrahma like that, I think more than any other player, he will deliver for you. So, but, Fornals, at the end of the day, Fornals will start this game. Fact. And it will be one change, pretty much. So.
The proof is in the pudding with Haller. As I've seen a comment section asking what type of animal is Haller to see him at his best. I was going to say, but if you've watched him play at Frankfurt, there's the old anecdote. I was in Germany. I was in a different city, Mainz. It's near Frankfurt. There was a Frankfurt fan in the bar. West Ham, Norwich were on, and he scored. And he goes around to me, goes, "I'm glad he scored because I was worried you were going to ruin him by playing him on his own up top because he can't play on his own up top." And I was like, "Yeah, actually thinking about it." And then that random old German has been proven quite right. That he did struggle up top on his own despite early form.
I just want to say, Angus, you were saying about Moyes not kind of being too in love with the idea of maybe Haller even being at the club, and I don't want to bring Dennis to tears here, but I mean, after the Fulham game, he's not performing at least that's in the system that we're playing with currently. I would look to offload him in January, not because I don't think he's a bad player or anything like that, but I do think if we can recoup some money for him, especially with the dire finances that we apparently seem to be in right now, I think it would be worth doing that, and then looking to get someone like Josh King or someone like that who's nearing the end of his contract, and we can kind of try and get a cheap deal for him there. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be a really important 2 games. I really hope he succeeds because I think he's a really talented player. But we'll just have to wait and see.
I mean, You're not going to make me cry. If you love someone, Charles, let them go. He can go on. He can go to someone that deserves him. Maybe you go back to Frankfurt. We can loan him to Mainz for the end of the season. So my mates can see how good a footballer he is. So,
but this is the thing. Like we've got a question coming up about David Moyes, but this is a criticism of him where he just seems like he's so hell bent on a certain system and a certain way of playing that he just plugs gaps. And we saw against Manchester City when he brought Yarmolenko on, the poor work rate on that right hand side. They had so much success down that left. Then you've got Haller up top that just wasn't linking up nicely and keeping hold of the ball. This is a real issue, and I think we will get to the stage where we say, is it just better to let Allaire go, get some money in, and bring someone in that fits the system. And Moyes has shown, to be fair to him, when he's got the players that can work, he can get results. So it is kind of that time where, give him the money, maybe bring someone in like Josh King, who I think for today's game would have been perfect, and he's a versatile player as well. And maybe West Ham will see Moyes progressing a little bit if he's got the bench that he needs. But at the moment, he doesn't really rate his bench, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I think as it kind of relates to Allaire, I will give some slack to David Moyes in the sense that he wasn't the one that brought him in. So obviously it's not his signing, it's not his kind of, maybe not his kind of player. So I will give him benefit of doubt on that. But it is kind of strange that we haven't seen Allaire play more, at least. I mean, you know, I'm still baffled by the decision to get rid of Ajeti, considering he's banging goals to Celtic now. And he just wasn't given a chance. So, you know, I mean, there are criticisms of Moyes, and we'll probably get into that in the next section. So I don't want to say that.
Yeah, I mean, but you know, having managers regimentally stick to a formation is nothing new to us. I mean, talking about the needs for Plan B and Plan C. I remember when Allardyce shocked the world with coming with a Plan B of no strikers. It worked. Then he played it every game for about 8 weeks, and people figured it out. That's why you need different systems for different teams. Like, I remember the dying days of Allardyce. He played Andy Carroll on the wing because we didn't have another fit winger, but he wouldn't dare change his system to a 4-4-2. So, Carroll, you're on the wing, mate. So it's nothing. It's nothing new to us, guys. Having a one track mind with our manager.
But there is a test, you know, with the system. It isn't about changing the whole thing. It's about little adjustments, and I think the top teams with the top managers keep the same system, but they do little things like Liverpool. You know, bring Firmino into a 10 role. They're still playing the same way, but they're just giving it a different angle, or you know, maybe having Thiago in there to sort of push the midfield and have a defensive midfield player in there as well. So I mean, Moyes has got to show that. He really, really does. And I don't know how we'll feel if we have too many injuries and we get to a stage where it's like, oh, okay, right, we have no plan B. We don't pick up any results against the teams we should do. All of a sudden, our perception on whether Moyes should get a contract changes.
Yeah, I think if you look at the strikers that we've signed over the last 5-6 years, you know, I'll go since last season at Upton Park. The ones that have delivered for us have been the quick strikers. And it's the same almost across the Premier League. You look at Marko Arnautovic, you look at Mikel Antonio, you look at someone like Diafra Sakho, compared to someone like Andy Carroll, who did deliver on his day. But, you know, if you look at him over however many seasons he played for us, you probably wouldn't put in that category. And let's say Sebastian Haller come January hasn't delivered. And at the end of the day, we could be sitting here in 6 hours or whatever and have made our minds up about Sebastian Haller. He could bag a hat trick, you never know. But at the same time, he could hardly get a touch of the ball today. And you look here and you think, you know, like we just don't learn our lesson with strikers because, you need those players like Josh King who would absolutely deliver at Premier League level still. And so at the end of the day, you've got someone like David Moyes who doesn't want to change the system, but at the same time feels obliged to start someone like Sebastian Haller because he's a £45 million signing. Not his signing, but you can't have someone sitting on the bench that's worth that much money getting zilch game time. And Sebastian Haller feels the same way. That's why after the Wolves goal, he just stood there and didn't celebrate. He's frustrated, and I'm sure Moyes is frustrated as well by why Sebastian Haller is at this football club. Sebastian Haller has quality, fact. He's a very, 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 very good striker. Whether he fits West Ham is, I guess, yet to be seen. So, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I've seen a few comments. I'll bring it up. Interested to know your thoughts on this. Obviously, Lundstrom's been linked with West Ham, and you know, talking about the strikers, it isn't necessarily going out and spending loads of money. It's about getting the right profile, and I actually think Lundstrom would be a good signing in terms of
100%.
Someone we
No
can bring
brainer.
on,
Yeah.
pressing in the final third, someone that's a bit of an outlier. That's what West Ham need, and you need to think the same with the striker. If Josh King, his contract runs out next summer, you could get him on either a pre-contract or a very small transfer fee. Go and do it. Like, I'm sick and tired of us, you know, we've got to spend X amount of money. No, just get the right player with the right profile that fits the system, and West Ham will progressively improve.
Yeah, the problem, the one thing I have with all this Lundstrom links is how many times have we linked with someone almost immediately after the window? Oh, we get him in January, and then suddenly another team jumps the gun and we go, we tried. So it's like this is a leak that come from the club. We're looking at Lundstrom, or not a leak, but speculation. For £750,000, I guarantee you, better football clubs that are more advertising will be on the radar or on his radar.
I think the one thing that might help us in this situation is, Charles, do you want to go?
No, you go, mate. You go.
Okay, is the fact that he did work slightly with David Moyes at Everton. It's something that X and Dave touched on in their podcast this week. And hopefully, he didn't feature in that Everton side too much, if at all. I'm not actually sure. But hopefully, working under someone like David Moyes, he might want to come to this football club. What a change. Someone wanted to come to West Ham. But yeah, hopefully we can get him. 750,000 for him would be an absolute steal. Hopefully we see him in FPL teams as a defender, because last year he absolutely smashed it.
Lord Lundstrom,
as much of a joke as that is, the reality is that does actually speak for his style of play quite a bit. A defensive player that plays in a defensive role who can really push up and is your outright box-to-box midfielder and who can nab your goal, can score a penalty. So, yeah.
And when was the last time we had an out-and-out box-to-box midfielder play for West Ham? I am seriously struggling to think. Rio Coca is the last one I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah.
I think
none of our best central midfielders have been box-to-box.
Scotty Barker.
He was more of a deep liar.
He was, but Scott Parker, particularly in that last season when we got relegated, was phenomenal. I think the only time I can remember it pre-Souček is Cheku Kouyaté, because for a long time Kouyaté had the legs to get in the midfield, and West Ham were crying out for it. All of a sudden, now you've got two box-to-box midfielders. It's really about Moyes going and saying, right, bring Lundstrom in, bring a bit of squad depth in. If Rice or Souček get injured, you can play him. Or if West Ham want to sit back and add another midfielder in there, you can take Fornals off, put him on, and go 5-4-1. It just gives us options. And I'm not sure with Moyes whether it's a case of he doesn't have the players or whether he just doesn't want to change. And I think if he gets the players that he wants, and then there's no excuse. If he doesn't make those changes, then it's all on him.
Boys, can I just say you're all getting way ahead of yourselves here, because 700,000. Do you think that we're going to afford that without paying 12 for him? We're going to literally be paying £80,000 a month £80,000 a year for the next 10 years or so.
Sullivan's going to bring up. Sullivan's going to tank the negotiations by going in there with a Tevez mask as well, isn't he? He's going to walk in there.
But this is the problem. This is the problem as a West Ham fan. You just think, surely it just makes sense, and inevitably he'll go to Rangers or something ridiculous.
That's what I said. Someone else will put a bid in. We'll do it. We're like, COVID, we'll give you 125 grand, right? 125 grand in 4 instalments. Sheffield United. There you go. No.
All right, let's move on to the questions before this descends into absolute chaos. Right. Next question. Does Moyes, and this kind of is what we have discussed, does Moyes deserve a contract? So obviously everyone watching, the background on this is his contract runs out at the end of the season. A number of the players' contracts run out at the end of the season, including Nobes, Snodgrass and Antonio. With the job that Moyes has done, in fairness to him, when he first come into the club, kept us up. Last season, obviously, there was a bad period, but obviously after Project Restart, we did survive. We have pushed on as a team now. Do you think we should keep Moyes in the hot seat a little bit longer, maybe look to give him a new deal? Dennis, off you go.
Well, this is the problem in that this type of question and this type of scenario really, across football, infuriates me a little bit, because we've had a good start, yes. We had a good end last season, but it's a long season. Now, we could talk about give him a new contract now, but then I'm not saying we will. I don't want to be negative Nigel, but if we lose every game between now and Christmas, people will be baying for his blood again. Dithering Dave with his subs. His one-dimension tactics. Why did we give him this deal? The board. They're so cheap. Why didn't we show some ambition? Wait a bit, is what I'm saying. He, on current form, absolutely he would deserve a new contract, and even if it goes awry a little bit. But then we pick up form later on. Of course, I think he deserves a new contract. But to talk about giving him a new contract right now, we've had 4 good games. Arsenal was a good performance. We had 4 good results. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Exactly. That is exactly what I'm about to say. Pretty much. I think he's hacked into my notes.
No cheesies, no shoes.
Yeah. Is that look? We should be if we're in a similar situation come February, March, absolutely. Because the one consistent thing the board have always done, they have always looked at contracts at the end of the season, and there's always a risk that the manager, with a bit of uncertainty, he could get an offer from somewhere else that's need a new manager somewhere, or he could get offered a Celtic job or something. I don't know. And be like, actually, by the time we come round to offer the contract in May, he goes, "Hey, ta-ra, I'm off," and then we're stuck with nobody. Because I remember when we were flying under Sam Allardyce, we were 3rd at Christmas. Sullivan was on Soccer AM giving it the big one about, if we get Champions League football, we might give him a contract in April, and it's like that sort of mentality is a bit like if we'd carried on our winning streak and we're still challenging for Europe, I'd have been sitting Allardyce down at February. Ultimately, it was proven right not to give him a contract because we lost 3 games. We won 3 games after Christmas from that. And if that happens now, people will be like, Moyes is done. If we scrape and finish 17th and stay up, obviously I'll be happy that we've stayed up because we were all very doom and gloom after the Newcastle game. But is it going to be this, should give him a contract? That's the danger of giving someone, talking about a new contract after 4 good games. Avram Grant won 3 games in a row against Blackpool, Liverpool and Stoke in the 10-11 scene. Was anyone talking about a new contract for him then? No. And it would have been insane. Would have been insane. So after 4 games, it's mental to talk about a new contract. But for the job he's done, if he keeps it up, as to the stand, even if it's not, obviously we're not delusional, we're not going to win and draw every game and have these comebacks. But if we keep the form going, we're sitting mid-table, more than happy to sit down and discuss a contract with him after the January transfer window, for certain, I think. And he has done a very good job, despite my misgivings of him. However, it is way too early to start thinking about it. Way too early.
Yeah, go on.
I think, even if we were 3rd or 4th at the moment, we'd beaten, say, either Arsenal or Newcastle. It's one of those things as well where one of the driving factors at the end of the day has to be desire. And for David Moyes, that has to be the desire to actually earn another contract. Yeah. I do think at this stage, if we had to pick a manager right now for next season, that manager in my eyes would be David Moyes. But it's not a decision we have to make now. It's a decision we have to make. I think I was going to say at the end of the season, but rightly so. I think it should be done just before the end of the season, either in February, March, because you just don't know if he's going to get a new deal or an offer elsewhere. But I think one of the most comforting things having David Moyes as manager is we have had a really good run of form this year under him. We beat Bournemouth 4-0 on the 1st of January or whatever. And we did have that really good run of fixtures after lockdown, after Project Restart, where we were beating teams, 4-0, 3-0. But arguably the most comforting thing was actually seeing someone like Declan Rice run over to him after he scored that goal against Watford and give him a hug, and all the players come over. And it shows that they do have that support for him. And from the stories that I've heard, again, through Dave Nex's podcast and elsewhere, the players really do like him. His in-game management is very questionable at times. I think that's an obvious thing to say. But, he's got Alan Irvine there and we'll just see how we go. But, yeah, it's not a decision that has to be made at the moment. And he does look like a very good manager for West Ham.
I think the thing that he does offer, and you've touched on it, is the fact that the players are playing for him. And that's a huge asset to have at this time. And it could be a bit of a bargaining chip where if you can keep hold of Moyes, does all of a sudden the players say, well, actually, we want to stay at West Ham and we want to build something. And it's something that West Ham don't have because of the ownership, because of the infrastructure. Everything's very, very short term. What I've liked about Moyes' approach to the job is that there seems to be a long-term idea about what he wants West Ham to do, whether it's building the right players, getting the right players in. We see particularly in this summer, albeit I think it may have been one of the worst in terms of investment, Soufal's been a good signing. If you technically count Souček in there as well, there are players in there that are fitting within that system. And I think Moyes offers stability. And I'm not saying he's the best manager because I think there are massive holes in terms of his in-game management, like you've said. The substitutes, I think he got lucky with the Lanzini one because Antonio went off with his hamstring and he came on, and obviously he would never have expected him to have done that. But I just think just that little bit of stability West Ham need at this time. And it is comforting if you give him... I wouldn't go and give him a huge deal either because I'm not sure long term, does he play the football that we want to see? Is it attractive? But if you give him a 2-year deal, and let's see how he goes and give a couple of transfer windows, I'm interested to see where he can take West Ham.
Yeah,
Well,
I think even with the a signing like Randolph, for example, Randolph has he played a game for us? He's played a couple of games for us when we desperately needed him.
Yeah.
Carabao Cup, yeah.
Yeah, but even a signing like that, good deal. He's a player that was at the club previously, last season at Upton Park. Is a feel-good signing for the fans. Would definitely be a good player to have around the dressing room, I'm sure. Like David Martin, albeit that wasn't David Moyes' signing. So he has been very hard to fault. The investment has been easy to fault. The transfers have been pretty hard to fault, I'd say, since he's come in.
Charles, what we saying, mate?
Well, the first thing I do with David Moyes' potential new contract is put a 25k bonus for every time he makes a sub before the 60 or 70th minute.
Like tomorrow, yeah?
That is a must need for him. He probably still won't do it, but well, I would say that he deserves a new contract as it ascertains to right now. I do agree with Dennis and Angus on the fact that we need to wait until at least January or even February or March to kind of try handing out staff contracts. I'm going to go one step further, maybe an unpopular opinion, I'm not sure, but I would only give him a 1-year deal. And the reason being for that is there are still things in his management, in his game management, that have sort of been a bit iffy. I think we can all agree on that. But also, I think it makes a smart decision all round because it doesn't tie us down to him into the future. If he's leading us in a negative direction, let's say in the future, whether it be this season or next season, we're not tied down with him or anything like that. We don't have any kind of potential sacking malarkey going on or anything like that. But also, it gives him more of a sense to thrive at West Ham. He's still very much recuperating from his previous failures at Sociedad and especially Man United. So his kind of market value still isn't up there right now. So I think we can still cash him in on a 1-year deal. But yeah, I would go as far to say give him a 1-year deal with an option for maybe another year or two. And hopefully he'll be more than happy to accept that, especially with the staff and the players that he's kind of accumulated over the last couple of sort of months or so. I'm not prepared to give him more than a year right now, and especially given how early it is in the season. It's still a long way to go. I don't know whether you guys agree with him being kept on a 1-year deal or him getting more of a reward for his.
I would definitely go for short term. Wouldn't do a 4-year stint or whatever.
I'd say that maybe if we do a 1-year deal with an automatic with option for an extension from the club, but an automatic locked-in extension if we finish 2 places higher than we did last year, for example, in order to get that motivation, rather than someone be like, because someone just texts me, automatic if you stay up, and I'm like, yeah, but we don't want to just be staying up by the skin of our teeth every year and doing the bare bloody minimum. So that's ultimate, but still have the option to renew it. So if we finish, let's say we finish this season 12th, right, and next season it's okay. We finish. The ambition is to finish 10th. So we say if you finish 10th, 2 places higher, automatically, but we only finish 11th, or we finish 13th, but we manage to beat all the big boys. We just mess up somehow and have a great cup run or something like that. We can still renew him. There's still the option for a renewal, but it's automatically locked in if we finish 2 places higher, for example. That's the type of deal, kind of complicated. That's the type of deal that I think could give him realistic aims. Like, we're not going to be a top 4 club.
Yeah.
We're not. Not under these owners, but if we could turn and say, so if you can improve us by 2 positions, you will automatically get a new year deal and a pay rise or something like that.
Yeah, and I think
I mean,
sorry, mate, but the only the caveat to all of this is that, albeit I think West Ham's an attractive club, massive fan base, even the stadium, albeit it's not perfect, let's be honest, but the capacity, the potential, it's just, what is West Ham's pulling power in terms of getting other managers in? And this is the issue we've got. Moyes is almost a marriage of convenience between him, Sullivan and Gold, because no one wanted him, no one else would come, let's just bring in. If we got rid of it, I mean, you'd be looking at other managers, maybe like an Eddie Howe. Would they come to West Ham, even if it was for the money? Because they know what that ownership's like. It's toxic, and that's becoming apparent. We've done it to Allardyce, we've done it to Pellegrini, managers with a bit of pedigree as well. If you're a manager from, either abroad or you're an English manager and you're looking at it, you're thinking, do I really fancy coming to West Ham if they're not going to back me? And that is the problem we've got, and that's why you lean maybe towards Moyes, just for a bit of stability.
Well, even with that, I saw the comment that you brought up, the YouTube comment there. If Moyes earns a contract, I give him a 3-year deal with break clauses, blah, blah, blah. I think the problem, football is it's an unstable business. You don't know what's going to happen. You could have the best manager. For instance, you could have someone like Jose Mourinho, who at Chelsea earned himself a new contract, quite a long contract. And that's where things started to go downhill. And you could have, a brilliant manager and things start to go wrong for your football club at no fault of his own. And the only thing that will actually help turn that club around is getting a new manager and, the whole fresh feeling of the club, even though that manager isn't to blame for the dire position that the club is in. So it's really hard, and it's getting harder now to back a manager for that long. I think at the end of the day, the football managers, most of them are really good for one season, and that's about it. Now, we pray that David Moyes does have quite a good stint at West Ham, but you're gambling at the end of the day if you give him a 3-year contract extension.
The thing is, if you give him a 1-year deal, it doesn't mean that there won't be stability, because obviously, like Dennis proposed, if there were options to keep him around, it wouldn't mean that, oh, right, you've got a 1-year deal, but you're not staying around at the end of the season. We can still keep him there. We can still keep that stability. Last time we offered a manager a deal was Pellegrini, and look how well that ended up. So, I think, like Angus said, I think the volatile kind of football environment that we're in, it makes more sense, especially for kind of the relationship that West Ham and David Moyes have, for us to be offering him 1-year, 2-year deals as opposed to 3 or 4-year deals. I think we can still get stability from a 1-year deal plus options on it.
Yeah, and I think the other
you just don't want to.
Sorry, mate.
I keep interrupting you, Corey. No, I was just going to say very quickly, the one thing with giving him a 1-year deal, which was actually my preference. So when you said, I'm quite glad you said it, because why give him a 2-year deal when you can afford giving him a 1-year deal? But can you afford it is the question, in terms of disrespecting the manager. You don't want to, let's say we finish in the top 6, which that's we'll worry about that later. But, you don't want to give someone a contract because of a short contract because of their name in football. David Moyes, if we had someone like Manuel Pellegrini and we'd finished 6th or whatever, we're not giving Manuel Pellegrini a 1-year contract. We might give him a 3 or a 4-year contract. And I think David Moyes would feel quite hard done by if, say, we're 8th or we're somewhere up there at the end of the season and we go, here you go, here's your 1-year deal. So it's just getting by with actually maintaining that respect and maintaining his love for the football club, and not risking that, so to speak.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, I do agree. And to be fair, he has done a really good job up until this point. So at the end of the season, I might change my mind and go, actually, he deserves another year guaranteed. But yeah, we'll just see how this year finishes, and hopefully he can earn that new contract.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're looking at it very much like, does he deserve a new contract? At the end of the day, if these owners are leaving and they're looking for a safe pair of hands in inverted commas to stay at the club, the all likelihood is he is going to get it, because I think it's Gold that really likes him as a manager. So listen, I just hope that if he does get a contract, that he does get backed. Even if it's with squad depth players like Lundstrom or somebody like that, because I'll be interested to see now, particularly in this system, particularly as we're pushing, where he can kind of take West Ham, even if it is just top 10, which links in to the next question. Where can West Ham finish this season? Listen, let's be honest. I spoke to Charles and Dennis probably after the Newcastle game, and it was very much like, this is doom and gloom. We're going down. We haven't brought anyone in. All of a sudden, you've got the new formation out there. You've got the wing backs. We're creating chances. We're scoring goals. We're competitive against top teams, which is a huge asset to have. Do you think particularly this season we need to maybe sort of aim a little bit higher? Do you think we can go to that top 10 place, or do you think it's too early? Shut up, Corey, and we'll see what happens. Anyone can take the floor.
I'm pretty much the same with my view on Moyes, in that it's too early to get ahead of ourselves. We don't know what's going to happen, and ultimately, this is going to be such an unpredictable season. We've seen some unpredictable results already, and everything can stop. There's talk of a national lockdown through November to December. We could have another break in football. We don't know. Equally, with everything that's going on, let's say, just to pick a couple of very key positions, let's say Fabianski, Ogbono and Rice all contract COVID and are out for minimum 2 weeks, maybe longer, and also going to lose some fitness. Then suddenly we're losing our best centre-back, our main goalkeeper, and the engine of our team. We're probably going to be looking, okay, we're going to struggle. Games where we look, okay, win, turns into, we'd be very happy with a point. Equally, it can turn the other way around. Injuries are piling up at clubs like Liverpool. If Liverpool now have a COVID outbreak, for example, and they lose, Alisson again when he comes back, and they lose Thiago and Salah, they're going to struggle. Lots of teams there's going to be periods where teams are probably going to be forced to play players or not play players that would mean that they'd be unbeatable, tough opposition. So we're going to have some games sometimes where we're going to win when without the COVID we probably wouldn't. So therefore, we could have a fantastic season. We could have a terrible season. We could have an average season. We don't know. Ultimately, yeah, exactly. 8th to 10th, I've always maintained 8th to 10th is where I'm very happy West Ham to finish. No relegation dramas, and maybe look at the cups. I'd always like that. But we never quite manage it. Even under Pellegrini, I remember that being so frustrated because there were so many games where, if only we had this, if only we had that, we could have ended up finishing 7th that year. But there were so many silly things happened. Be it referee decisions? Any Liverpool fans watching, I am still bitter about that Mane goal, that was when Mane went offside in that season. But it's too hard. I'm rambling a bit here, but you get my point in that you can't really predict this season because there's so many variables. We can quite easily, with a bit of luck, finish in European places this year. On the form we're in, if we keep this form up, we can. Will we? Probably not. But when this team, this starting 11, when Antonio's back fit and everything, is as good a starting 11 as we've probably ever had at West Ham. It's just the problem is the goods in the back, the replacements are nowhere near up to scratch. I'm sorry to say. And when we get the inevitable injuries or a key player or the medium sort of player gets COVID, the replacement isn't good enough, and we're going to struggle.
And I think that's such a good point. I think in terms of form, what we've seen over the past five games, we've probably been one of the most consistent performers in the league in terms of the level of performance that we've put in, which is a huge asset to have in a Premier League season that's so far open. Equally, we've got one of the worst squad depths in the league. So we are always one injury, and today is really an acid test to see if Allaire comes in, does it all fall apart? Do we stop creating chances? And then you've got to start reevaluating. But I agree, it's quite a vague question because this season is so open, anything could happen.
Yeah, it's such an unpredictable season already. There's so many goals going in, so many penalties being given. You've got teams like Leeds and Villa who are virtually at the top of the table. You've got teams like United not doing as well as they should be doing. You've got teams like Crystal Palace who are kind of the hidden team this year who are flying in the top 10 at the moment. And the last season that I can remember being so unpredictable was the 15-16 season, the last season at Upton Park, where Leicester won the league. And, you had Chelsea finishing 10th. And we finished 7th that year. And at the start of the season, no one thought we were going to finish 7th. More so surprising than that was we finished 4 points off a Champions League position. City finished in 4th with 66 points. We finished in 7th with 62. So you just don't know. And we will be kicking ourselves at the end of the day if we finish 10th this year or we finish 9th this year and there are teams like Villa and Leeds above us. But, if they finish below us and you've got that top 6 in that top 6 position, then, I'm sure we'll be happy with that. But at the end of the day, I think to look at the season at the end of the year and go and determine whether it's a success or not, it's where we finish relative to the teams around us, the teams like Villa, the teams like, Leeds, and how we deliver on the day against those clubs. I think it'll be a lot clearer in 2 weeks' time after we've played Fulham and we've played Liverpool, and Fulham in particular, because if we go and we get a draw today, and then we go and lose to Fulham, then you just don't know. But if we then go and beat Fulham, we get a result today and then we go and beat Fulham, I think you could be sitting here saying we can finish 7th this year, factually. We can do it. But it remains to be seen.
And I think that is the key thing with West Ham, isn't it? You turn up against the big teams and you struggle against the smaller teams. But having said that, the teams that you'd look maybe in and around us that would typically struggle against, Leicester one, Wolves another, we battered them. And the Wolves game scored loads of goals. Leicester, we just did a number on them. It is so important going into the fixtures next month. Fulham, Villa, Sheffield United, we get some serious points from them. And I think if West Ham get possibly 7 from 9 or 9 from 9 or whatever, all of a sudden the season looks a bit different. You're thinking, well, we can compete with the top teams and we're getting points against the teams we should do. We could finish anywhere, and I'd love to see us just sort of take something by surprise. I'd be happy just staying up, to be honest, gone from the start of the season. But now you're thinking, I don't know, if you get a point against Liverpool today, all of a sudden we look like one of the most consistent performers in the league.
Yeah, I think one of the most comforting things, though, is, we're only 6 games into the season, but it does seem like 2 of those 3 relegation teams are already very clear. Fulham are they are not staying in this league. That is as close to certain as you can possibly get. They are really looking a bad team at the moment. And Sheffield United are also looking very, very shaky. And if they're bringing someone like Rhian Brewster in as their sole striker, then I do worry for them. Lundstrom obviously wants to leave. So I think both those teams will get relegated. And I think, hopefully, touch wood, touch bloody everything, will be fine in terms of a relegation battle. But
all I have to say is if Sheffield United get relegated, we need to be as far away from the relegation zone as possible, or we're back in court. Because they will
They're still playing Tevez for that as well.
No, Tevez, get him in.
Playing Tevez, so they will sue us for everything.
Yeah, of course. But do you know what as well? West Brom looked poor. I know they brought in Carlin Grant, which we spoke about on the show before as a good, astute signing. Grady's in there. We think's fantastic. I'll tell you what, I'd love it if West Brom got relegated and we brought Grady back on a cheap deal. I just want Grady back at West Ham. That's all. Is it too much to ask?
That's what the Barclays money is for.
They're geniuses. They're playing 4D chess with us.
Yeah, but it's like it's also typical. It's typical of West Ham fans. Like back when Pellegrini took over, and we were a bit light at centre back before we signed Diop. I said, I still think we should give Collins 1-year deal. And my mate, the same one that thought McTominay was better than Rice, was like, well, typical West Ham fans. We don't want these shiny new players. We want James Tompkins on the extended contract, but we'll still complain that we're not signing anyone good enough.
You know what I've realised? Our board is actually miles ahead of us, because I've finally figured out what they've tried to do. They've sold him for a fixed fee and they're going to buy him back in instalments in January. It's perfect.
Very clever.
Absolute heroes.
They've been playing Football Manager 12 again.
Dennis, give me a shirt, mate.
Do you know what, though? I think a lot of this hinges on January, doesn't it? Because I think we get to it, and they've already put the feelers out, so I'm already aware that Sullivan's going to say, we spent all our money and all this. But if we're in a really good position, if we're, say, even 10th or 9th, And it's like, just get a few loan signings in, because the wage bill has been cleared massively. Like, you can talk about actual having capital to spend, but the wage bill has gone down hugely since like last summer and this summer as well. Go out and get a few decent signings in key positions. I think we brought Craig Dawson in, and I haven't even seen him. So, so bring in players in positions that we actually need them in, rather than, you know, players that, you know, don't get played too much or just squad depth. I think that's the difference. Josh King and Lundstrom, if they did come in, would be competitive first team players. And if one or the other went out of the game, and you could bring someone in, the quality is not diminishing. And that's the level we need to get to as a club, where we can bring someone in and it doesn't change the whole game plan, or it doesn't change how West Ham play.
Yeah, I mean, exactly right. I mean, all of you have hit it pretty much nail on the head, really. We don't know what this season has. Potential national lockdown, as Dennis has mentioned, pause in football, meaning, you know, players could contract COVID and all this. I mean, Dennis, you've brought it all up, but yeah, I mean, and like you say, Corey, there's going to have to be sort of continuation of form into at least the middle of the season or midway through the season. I actually would be very, very, very happy with where we are right now, which is 12th, I think, which is kind of surprising given the amount of, you know, decent results we've had. But it's a credit to the team for how well they've played in that kind of tough run of fixtures. So if we can finish it off with at least a point today, then that would be amazing. But yeah, 12th I think would be a really good, solid foundation to build upon. I know West Ham fans, we get a bit carried away, and I mean, bloody hell, Dennis, if we get 8th, I'm throwing a bloody I'm throwing a bloody open top parade for us, mate. Honestly, I'll be getting everything together for that. But yeah, I mean, 12th, we got to keep it. We got to keep it simple. Get through the season. You know, find a lot of positive results, which we are getting so far. But if we can squeeze up to top 10, then I mean, David Moyes, sign him up to a 5-year deal.
David
we
Moyes
said about
on.
and going back to what we said about Dawson, like no one's seen him. Did we actually sign him? Like, was that just trolling? He turned out. He's
probably playing for Will Salthouse 5-a-side, to be honest.
The Will Salthouse Dream 11 was what we were called by West Ham Clips the other week. So,
listen,
good.
Before I let you go, lads, score predictions for today. I know, obviously, Dennis, Charles, you're back for later, so there'll be loads of screaming and shouting.
Can I just say that comment you put up? Does that mean I've got a fan base now? Great stuff.
Well, this is the thing. Like, we're developing characters on this channel, so eventually the kind of rapport that we'll have is going to be unbelievable. But yeah, you got a fan, mate. George, before we actually go, George says Haller is going to play well today. And listen, mate, if he goes out and gets a hat trick, it's all good for West Ham. So I don't really care about the debate as to who should start. If the players put in a performance today, we get something out of this game. It's unbelievable. And from the return of the fixture list we've had, possibly the worst out of any of the teams in the league, unbelievable. And fingers crossed we get something.
Yeah.
What several score predictions?
Yeah, score predictions. Come on, lads. What are we saying?
Normally I just reference Mr. T in Rocky 3 and just say pain, but I'm going to go for. I mean, Salah is I believe Salah's the captain of my fantasy team. I need to triple check that, so I want him to score. But other than that, I'm predicting the Baguette Batistuta is going to shine today, and we're going to win. We're going to win.
From West Ham clips.
Yeah. We're gonna win 4-2 with Haller scoring 4 goals.
Oh my god!
And he's going to reveal to have a GBS out T-shirt on underneath.
Oh, can you imagine?
Well,
honestly, how good that would be if you ever.
And he's going to celebrate. He's going to celebrate every goal in front of David Moyes. Like, you know, when there's that clip of Van Nistelrooy missed a penalty and someone laughs at him, so then he scores and goes.
Yeah.
Martin Keough.
He's going to do. Oh yeah, like Martin Keough. He's going to celebrate every goal in front of David Moyes. And we're going to win 4-2. Salah's going to score 2 for my fantasy team. That's my prediction.
All right, real predictions, lads.
That was a real prediction.
That's a fantasy one.
Who's having a crack? I want to hear what you guys think first, because I know I'm going to be way too optimistic.
I'll say quickly now. I'm going to go for a score draw. I think Liverpool's attack is a bit too potent. so they're going to get a goal at least. But I also think, I think 1-1 or 2-1 might be a realistic and very positive result for us. So here's hoping.
It all depends who they play at centre back, because I'm struggling to think of it. I think Joe Gomez, I think, is their only fit centre back, because Fabinho picked up an injury.
They're starting someone that's youngster today, aren't they?
Reece Williams. Reece Williams. He's
a good player, but it's just potentially you could be bullied. I reckon both teams to score, but I reckon Liverpool's strike force will sort of outdo us. I'm gonna go 2-1 Liverpool with an except I'm gonna get everything thrown.
Oh, you've had your second. I realised your second prediction. You only get one, mate.
No, that's my real prediction. That's my real prediction.
We're gonna have to do a prediction section with you, mate.
There's a real prediction. 2-1 Liverpool. But
I'll go score draw.
Yeah.
I say 1-1. I think Salah or Mane with the goal, and I will back Haller to score one. So see how we go.
Yeah, I feel the same. I think it will be 1-1. I think Liverpool will be all over us for so long. We'll defend really well. We'll break once and we'll take that chance. And I'd love Jared Bowen to get the goal coming in onto his left foot, because I can just see that happening. They're going to be exposed at fullbacks, mate. It's going to be 1-0. It's going to be 1-0, Dennis.
No. If Villa scored 7, we can score 8.
Bowen assisted to Haller, who then scores a Rabona, or gets a Rabona to set himself up for a bicycle kick.
Who is this Allaire fanboy that we have on him?
We go Antonio who?
Oh my God! Listen, lads. It's been an absolute pleasure. That's been probably one of my favourites we've had. We've covered everything. Thanks for Angus, first time on, mate. It was a pleasure speaking to you.
Thanks,
We'll have
guys.
you back
Pleasure
on soon.
to be on.
And yeah, you can catch us, everyone, from 5 o'clock. It'll be a little preview. I've got some lovely little graphics, so we'll run through them as well. And then 5:30. I think it's 5:30 kickoff, is it? So we'll get going from there, and hopefully West Ham get something. Come on, you Irons. Until next time, everybody. Take care.